Meeting called to order. Councilmember Bez Anderson, Councilmember Chapman, Councilmember Clayton, Deputy Mayor Quinn, Mayor Moore. Please stand for a silent prayer over the reflection.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As required of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, I put those to this meeting as we provide the following notice. The special meeting notice was forwarded to the Asbury Press and the poster on February 10th, 2026, and posted on the bulletin board the same date. All notices are on file with the city clerk. We're now on to a presentation by Waterfront Redevelopment Attorney, Joe Marizzi.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. So I'd like to thank a couple of people. I'd like to thank the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education, the Board of Education staff for letting us use this fine facility.
You can turn it up!
Can you turn it up?
Please.
Okay, there are seats closed, so feel free to move down. Okay, and there are seats closed in the first 5 rows, so if you want to move down, we won't have to do that again. I'll keep it closed. So again, I thank the Board of Education, I thank the city staff, Nate, Joe, and Andy for getting all this ready in such a short time frame. Wasn't easy to do, but we got it done. Tonight's meeting is basically going to be, we're going to have Mr. Marizzi, our redevelopment attorney, make a presentation. And after that, we'll open it up to questions. Now, for this to go smooth, we need everybody to cooperate. We can't have cross conversations. When you get up to the microphone, you'll have 3 minutes. If the buzzer goes off, feel free to finish your sentence, but don't make it a war and peace sentence. And again, no cross conversations. We want everybody to get a shot at the microphone. So the easier everybody is as far as making it go smooth, you can make sure everybody gets to the microphone tonight. And with that, we'll open up with Mr. Marizzi. Hold on a second. It's only a couple minutes after 6. Let's wait till like 6:05 or so in case a couple people are late. So we don't have to do it twice. Again, plenty of seats up in the first 8 rows on all sides.
There's no way you can put that anywhere else because you're blocking the path. Yeah. Other side? Yeah, that works.
Swimming with, unless you feel better, that's
Thank you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's your writing.
Nah.
it's 5 after, so everybody will just settle down. We're going to start. Mr. Marizzi, redevelopment attorney, is going to start off with a presentation. Thank you, and again, let's everybody just be respectful, and we can all get through this, and everybody can ask all their questions.
Mayor, members of the council, and members of the Asbury. Yeah, okay. When you can't hear me, raise your hand, and I'll know what that means. Can you hear me now? You can hear me now. Okay. So, as the mayor said, my name is Joe Marizzi. My partner, Joanne Foss, is with me. We are a special redevelopment council. You can't hear me? I'll try it. Can you raise the volume? I think they're working on the volume. Just give us a minute. Is that better? No. Okay. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. I want to be heard, so I'm going to take time to make it. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. So, as I was saying, my name is Joe Marizzi, and my partner, Joanne Foss, is with me. We serve as Special Redevelopment Council to Asbury Park for the waterfront redevelopment area. We have served in that position in our firm since 2018. So we were not here when these documents that I'm going to talk about tonight were drafted and executed. But I was delighted when we were appointed in 2018 because I spent many of my summer teenage years in Asbury Park, and I love this city. What we're going to do tonight is give an information session about the many documents that affect the issues that I know you're all concerned about. The mayor has asked me to present a transparent explanation of all of these documents that represent the situation we are in. I am, of course, going to be operating within the bounds of attorney-client because I am in a public session here. I have to be careful that I don't say something that gives a basis for an adversary at some time in the future to put Asbury Park in a disadvantaged position. So I'm not going to be giving any opinions tonight. I'm going to be laying out the facts of the documents. I'm not giving any position, any comments on the merits of the claims here. This is not a confidential setting, and I know that everything I say here will be preserved and reviewed, perhaps in the future. So let me give you an overview of what I am going to do, what we are going to do. First, I'm going to go through the identity of the key documents. There's many documents, many thousands of pages, but there are key documents that need to be understood. I'm going to describe the redevelopment agreements with Asbury Partners, now known as iStar, sometimes as Starfield. I'm going to talk about the redevelopment agreement with Madison Asbury Retail. I sometimes refer to them as MAR. They are a subsidiary of a much larger entity, Madison Marquette. I'm going to review the alternatives of litigation and in a general way talk about what litigation would mean, what it would involve. I'm going to talk about condemnation or eminent domain, as it's sometimes referred to. Those are interchangeable terms. And I'm going to then update the situation with respect to the grant for the partial repair of Paramount Theater. And I'm finally going to talk about the historic tax credits and cafe tax credit applications that are pending before NJDEA right now. We also are going to go through a few frequently asked questions before I finish my presentation. Joanne and I are going to do that because there's a lot of confusion, understandably, about the situation the city is in. It's understandable because the documents are multiple and they are confusing. And the purpose of tonight is to try to clarify and lead to a better understanding of the actual situation that presents itself in Asbury Park. So I am going to start with, now I am just looking. Did we not charge it enough?
Speakers are not off.
Well, I'm not talking. Okay, here we go. Thank you. So, one thing I want to do, and you're all familiar with this. Oops.
Don't hear you.
Okay. I'm talking. I sometimes pause. So here is the first slide to orient us. And you know this scene. I'm going to be talking about the waterfront redevelopment area. This is a piece of it. I'm circling now the Convention Hall, Paramount Theater, Grand Arcade. I call it the Convention Hall Complex. That is an MAR project, as you know. In this end of the boardwalk is the casino, the carousel, and the boardwalk arcade that's sometimes referred to as the breezeway. That's not the proper terminology in the documents. I will sometimes use it by mistake, but the proper designation is the boardwalk arcade. Now, those items I just mentioned are under the control of Madison Asbury Retail. The boardwalk is city, and the beach is city. And then back here, and many blocks back, this is iStar, Starfield, Asbury Partners. There's a distinction between what Asbury Partners is doing here in the name now of iStar, as between what is happening up here with Madison Asbury Retail.
Power plant or the casino complex?
Yeah, the power plant is, our question was, is the power plant part of the casino project? I have to get back to that. It is down here. This, when I talk about that product, that's what I'm talking about. So, I wanted to make that distinction because I read that people are mixing up iStar and MAR, and this is to just orient the distinction. So the condo buildings that you're seeing going up are iStar. They're not Madison Asbury Retail. Important distinction. So these are the key documents that I want to talk about, and I'll talk about them individually in more detail. The waterfront redevelopment plan that was adopted in March of 2002. That's the operative redevelopment plan. Then we have the what's formerly called the Asbury Partners LLC amended and restated redeveloper land disposition agreement, October of 2002. And then we have the SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, Historic Preservation Easement, that was entered into January 1st, 2004. Then we have the CAFRA permit, the Coastal Areas Facility Act permit. We'll talk about that in much more detail, but all these documents are important. And now we come to the Madison Asbury Retail Subsequent Developer Agreement, and that's June of 2010. And also in the mix is the Politan arbitration opinion that was issued in 2011. That was as a result of arbitration. We'll talk about that in more detail as we proceed. So the waterfront redevelopment plan, just to give you an idea of that, is that's like the birth certificate of all of this. It sets forth the vision, it sets forth the plan for the waterfront redevelopment area. It is a visionary document, it is something of a zoning document as well, and that is the document that gives the power to the city to enter into agreements with private parties to enter into the redevelopment process. And the details of each of the projects are then set forth in subsequent, in the redevelopment agreement. And we have subsequent redevelopment agreements, we have redevelopment agreements in this case. My next slide is to identify the waterfront redevelopment area. I mentioned we're special counsel for the waterfront redevelopment area. We do not provide any legal advice to the city in any other part of the city, and that area is depicted on this slide, and it's divided between the prime redevelopment area, which is this area here, and that's where the intention of the land is for large blocks to be built on, and large structures. And behind that, it's less intense. Moving to the next one is the historic preservation easement, SHPO, and now I'll give you some relief from listening to me, and I'm going to ask Joanne to talk about that.
I hope you can hear me. I've never been accused of being quiet, but if you can't hear me, then raise your hand and we'll do the Joe thing. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the document that's called the New Jersey SHPO Easement Agreement. That's what we call it. It's not the oldest document in the list of pertinent documents, but it is one of the cornerstone documents. If the redevelopment plan is the birth certificate, then maybe the SHPO easement is, a foundational brick. This document is an agreement that was entered into in January of 2004 among Asbury Partners, which, as you heard Joe say, is now known as iStar or Starfield. It's with the city, of course, and it's with SHPO. SHPO is the New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office. The obligations in this agreement were transferred to Madison Asbury Retail. Although the original agreement was entered into with Asbury Partners, it sticks to MAR because of the fact that they own the building. The building, and when I'm talking about the building now, by the way, I'm talking about Convention Hall Complex. This agreement applies only to Convention Hall Complex. It does not apply to casino carousels power plant. That's an important distinction to make. This agreement applies only to the Convention Hall Complex. And the reason it sticks to MAR, as I was saying, is simply because the property was transferred to MAR by Asbury Partners. And when that happened, the obligations in this agreement automatically went to MAR because this agreement runs with the land in perpetuity. That's just legal mumbo jumbo for saying it applies to anybody who owns the building. So if MAR sold the building tomorrow to Mickey Mouse, which they couldn't do, but if they did, they couldn't do it without city council approval. But if they did, Mickey Mouse would be bound by these same obligations. So what are the obligations? What does the SHPO easement do? And there are really three primary obligations that are imposed upon the owner of the Convention Hall Complex at any given time. And they are, one, to prevent deterioration of the property, two, to maintain the protected features in good condition. I'm going to come back to what good condition means in a second. And three, needing no more than minor repair or routine maintenance and keeping the property accessible to the public. So good condition, what does that mean? According to the agreement itself, it means intact and structurally sound and having few or no cosmetic imperfections. That's the obligations that are set out in the SHPO easement, and I'll be back to talk to you again later.
So now I'm going to tell you quickly about the CAFRA permit. It is a fancy word of saying that it's a permit an omnibus permit that the State Department of Environmental Protection gave to the entire concept of the redevelopment of the waterfront area, rather than having to go to DEP project by project. This idea of a capital permit was instituted to speed the process of redevelopment in areas needing it. And the first one was involving Long Branch. This was the second that I know. And it basically, in overview terms, allowed the construction of 3,164 residential units, 450,000 square feet of commercial. Multiple infrastructure projects are approved in this permit. It calls for and approves the rehabilitation of the boardwalk, the casino, convention hall, the powerhouse, etc. Those are all touched on in this document. And it imposes conditions, and one of the conditions we'll talk about later. So that's sort of DEP saying from an environmental point of view, this is all fine. Now, each project must come in and get clearance, but it's a much more accelerated process than it would otherwise be. Now, we're going to talk about the first agreement. This is Asbury Partners in 2002. And that agreement says something very important. You can't read the small print, but it's summarized by the larger print, which says it supersedes all prior agreements. So they're all wiped away. There's language in many of the older agreements that looks great, and we'd love to still have it, but it is gone. There are many agreements that lead up to this. This is not the first. There are many redevelopment plans that lead up to the redevelopment plan that was adopted in 2002. The slate was wiped clean with the Asbury Partners 2002 agreement. So what does that call for? In broad terms, it implements the residential and retail aspects of the waterfront redevelopment plan. It provides for a maximum residential density, as I talked about before, of 3,164 units. That since has gone down to about 2,000 units because the number of the buildings that iStar is putting up are shorter than they could otherwise be. So you're not going to see the density that was permitted in that redevelopment agreement over time. It's less. It talks about the convention hall complex, the pavilions, all of these facilities that we're here to talk about tonight were sold by the city in 2002 to Asbury Partners. They're private property. They were sold at that time. It was a different time in Asbury Park than it is today. And they were sold in very bad condition, sold to Asbury Partners for the purpose of renovating and rehabilitating the conventional complex. The casino and the parkland will be renovated regarding an Asbury Partners proposal. Now, I'm going to talk about MAR. Some of this goes away when we get to MAR. They were responsible for infrastructure projects. Now, what do I mean about that? The city needed, and still does, many important infrastructure projects, streets, sewers, water, stormwater control, curbs, all of that, which is stated at that time, the city could not afford to do. So the developer took on the responsibility to do that, at least on paper. And there is a consequence of that in the Politan decision. Mr. Judge Politan was a retired judge, and the story of this is very interesting because at that period of time, in 2010, remember the agreement signed in 2002, it's 2010, and the city issues 4 or 5 or 6 notices of default to Asbury Partners, files a lawsuit to terminate the redevelopment agreement. It goes to court, it goes to Judge Lawson in Freehold, and he said, because the motions are made in the litigation, you know, you sue somebody, they don't say, okay, you have to fight. So what happened was that the Asbury partners at that time pointed out that the agreement provided an arbitration clause, meaning what? That it had to go to an arbitrator, it couldn't go to a court. So the arbitrator is appointed and it's retired Judge Politan. So what happens as a result of that arbitration? It concludes unsatisfactorily because he decides that many of those defaults were not actually material defaults. With respect to the termination of the agreement is denied. With respect to the key issue about the failure to proceed with the infrastructure projects that I talked about before, he said, yeah, that's a problem, but you guys should work it out. And so that's what happened. After this decision, when the lawsuit was filed by the city in 2010, after that, the 2011 decision, in the arbitration, then the parties got together and came up with the mechanism to finance the infrastructure project.
Excuse me, was this still Asbury Partners? Hey, sir, we're going to finish the presentation. You can ask all the questions. Thank you.
This is Asbury Partners when this is happening. And so, and by that time, iStar came in to pick up the pieces left by Asbury Partners, which went building up a couple of these successive entities that tried to build, and some of you may remember the buildings that were attempted in that period of time. There was a skeleton at the beach. How many of you remember that skeleton? Okay. So that skeleton lasted there for so many years. I was the chairman of the State Planning Commission around that time, and I always use that in my talks as an example of what goes wrong with redevelopment and why you should have a very strong redevelopment agreement and vet carefully the people you're entering into. I don't think I'm allowed to respond to comments from the public because it's not fair. It's not fair to anybody else in this room. So I can't respond to what you said. So therefore, they came up with a plan that is in effect today that provides for the financing of the infrastructure project. And it is a complicated system that calls for special assessments to be made with respect to people who buy condos. They pay a special assessment to pay for the infrastructure. The infrastructure is not paid for by the citizens of Asbury Park who live here before the new owners come in. It's paid for by the new purchasers of the condos in Asbury Park. And there's I don't know what just happened. And there is a redevelopment bond issue. It's very complicated, but to date, about $43 or $42 million has been spent on all of the infrastructure improvements that we are enjoying, not paid for from city budget, paid for by new occupants and residents of Asbury Park through this complicated system. So that's what happened after the Politan decision in 2010. And now, it started in 2010, and the decision was in 2011, but in 2010, arriving at the scene, actually, they arrived at Asbury Retail, came a couple of years before 2010. They started doing work under an MOU in 2008, as I recall, and they claim, I haven't verified this, but they claim they spent a lot of money before they got to this stage of the agreement in 2010. So what happened in 2010 is that Asbury Partners, by this time it's iStar, decides to split its control of the waterfront and hang on to the residential piece, Ocean Avenue and West, and to transfer the retail aspects of it to Madison Asbury Retail, right? A subsidiary, as I said, of Madison Marquette. That transfers all of the projects that we are now concerned about. The Convention Hall complex, and when I say Convention Hall complex, I'm talking about Convention Hall, Paramount Theater, and the Grand Arcade in one complex. It transferred the casino, the Boardwalk Arcade, the building between that and the carousel, the power plant, all go to Madison Asbury Retail, as well as the pavilions along the boardwalk, where the restaurants are. So that's where that comes from. And now we have Madison Asbury Retail on the scene. And that agreement in 2010 wiped away another document that we would love to have today, the dispute resolution agreement. That agreement laid out a schedule of work to be done in all of these facilities over time, identified it, set up escrows, and it was a rather robust document. The 2010 agreement with Madison Asbury Retail abolished it. And then it also says Madison Asbury Retail only assumes obligations of Asbury Partners retail, of their retail properties, very important, to the extent expressly set forth in the MAR document. That's important because that wipes away any other provisions about those documents that apply to MAR. And the other concept that is introduced is that they have to use commercially reasonable efforts to do all of this. Commercially reasonable efforts to develop, finance, construct, operate, and maintain retail properties. There's a qualifier there that must be borne in mind. Now, their obligation, this is the quote about their obligation regarding the Convention Hall complex. I'm going to read it. Madison Asbury MA Retail shall develop, finance, construct, operate, and maintain the retail projects on the retail properties consistent with applicable laws, governmental approvals, and project documents. Retail properties, as I said before, are all those facilities that we're worried about falling apart. So that's their obligation. It goes on to say, you may not be able to see in small print, after the completion of limited improvements that are set forth on two exhibits in the document, Exhibit O and Exhibit P, after they do that work, then NAR shall have no obligation to perform any further construction or renovation work in or to the Convention Hall property, whether pursuant to the project documents or otherwise. That's powerful language. So what's on O and P? O is a list of 4 or 5 things they had to do, and they got them done. And P is 2 or 3 items. And P include the fire suppression system, steps to the boardwalk, and another minor item that doesn't come quickly to my mind. But I know the steps are done and the fire suppression is done. So then this is the language we have. Now, their obligations regarding, it says, remember, that obligation set, what's set forth in the document. Now, this is what it says about the casino project and the power project. The parties agree, the parties, remember, is Asbury Park and Madison Asbury Retail, agree that the future undertaking of the casino projects and the power plant projects shall require subsequent development. Did I turn it off? Okay, sorry about that. That's okay. Okay. I'm just going ahead. Many of you may see it. The parties agree that the future undertaking of the casino projects and the power plant projects shall require subsequent development agreements prior to the right to commence construction and, I'm going to say the word, prior to the obligation to undertake these projects arise. So, that means we're waiting for a proposal from Madison Asbury Retail for what they're going to do to improve those projects. And then when we get the proposal, it's necessary to enter into negotiations to enter into a subsequent development agreement. That's an important thing to remember. Now, I know that there's some thoughts out there that there's no default provisions in the agreement. There are default provisions in the agreement. And that, those remedies, this is important, replace and supersede remedies in the, remember I talked about Asbury Partners 2002 agreement, there's a bunch of stuff in there we like, it's gone. Now the defaults in section 8.02, with respect to each of the retail projects, this subsequent developer agreement shall replace and supersede Article 8 of the redeveloper agreement, and any one or more of the following shall constitute an event of default by LA Retail. Provided, however, that the exercise of a particular remedy with respect to an event of default involving one retail project shall have no effect on another. So there are default provisions, but they're not what they were. Not what they were in the earlier agreement. And you know, remember too, the timing here. It's 2010. It's right around the Great Recession. The economy is in a shambles. The leverage that the city had was impacted by that situation in 2010 and affected, right? So the remedies of the city in the event of default are you have to give notice and an opportunity to cure, and then if you prove it, it's a default, you terminate it, rescind the developer designation, undertake any action in law or equity, including specific performance or injunction. Those are the listed remedies that the city has if it proves that there's a default. So, what are the alternatives to the city given this background of the legal situation? I lay them out in more detail as we go forward. One is condemnation or eminent domain. Another one is litigation. Another one, which I referred to before, is a $13 million grant to repair, to some degree, Paramount Theater, and then our tax credit application. So I'm going to go down each one of them. Condemnation. There's a desire to use condemnation, but it should be understood what condemnation is all about. When you condemn private property as a public entity, you have to pay the fair market value of the property. And that requires appraisal. And that's an outcome we don't know. I understand that they think it's worth $20–30 million. We'll talk about Convention Hall now. There is an active retail operation in the Grand Arcade. All those assets, restaurants and so on, are figured into the valuation of that property. Once the appraisal is prepared, it must go to the other side. And then the law requires that there be good faith negotiations. Because there's a great disincentive to take private property in our country because of our Constitution and our focus on property. So, what does good faith negotiation mean? And there's cases about this where the process gets stuck because the property owner says it's not good faith negotiation. It's not good faith negotiation if you're sitting across the table from me and you're offering to pay me, I'll pick a number, $30 million, but you don't have $30 million. That's not good faith negotiation. So courts have said, in order to have good faith negotiation and condemnation, the entity, the city, Asbury Park, must have the $30 million example in its pocket, either by way of appropriation or by way of a bond ordinance. And that means you go into the process having the funds, but you have to appropriate the funds in one of those manners, and that has an impact on real estate taxes right away, even before you own the property. So, let's say you complete the good faith negotiation, you complete negotiations and you think they're in good faith, then you're only then you're allowed to file the complaint in condemnation. And at that time, there is a process whereby in my example, the $30 million is deposited into the Superior Court of New Jersey, and at that moment that deposit is made, the city can take ownership of the property. The money's in court, and then the law also provides that the property owner can apply to the court to take that money out while the debate goes on about the final valuation number. Because the fact that the city says it's worth $30 million doesn't mean that's going to be the final answer. And you may not get the final answer for a number of years. You have litigation in that process, unless the parties agree. And I just finished a condemnation where the parties did not agree, and gone through the whole process. It's very expensive to do. And so the biggest unknown is a very fearsome one for the condemning party, because you will not know how much the property is worth until you go through the process with the condemnation commissioners. These are three people appointed by the court to hear the testimony in the case and make a judgment about what they think the property is worth. They might think it's worth $20 million. They might think it's worth $40 million. Then you have to pay $40 million. Or you can, the city or the other party can appeal. And the appeal goes to a jury. And you don't know what to expect for the jury trial. But all those steps cost money. The other consequence is that once the city takes title, then it steps in the shoes of the owner of the property and has the responsibilities to ensure, to secure safety, repair, maintain, and also the taxes that are paid, that have been paid, are gone during that period of time. So these are the realities of condemnation. It sounds very appealing to say, let's condemn the property and take it back, because public bodies do have that power. but it is very controlled power, because as I said, we have a very strong adherence to property rights in our country and in our constitution. So the property owner must be paid the fair market value of property, which is only determined after you go through all of this process. It might take several years to know what that amount is. So then if at the end of the jury trial, the award is 20 million, the city's happy, because he said it's worth 30. If the award is 50 million, the city's got to adopt another bond ordinance, because you got the property, you take the property, you have to pay that. And so this is the stark reality of condemnation. Now I'm going to turn to another alternative, which is litigation. And I'm focused on the conventional complex for this slide, but it applies to any of these properties, or any property that is in default. So the realities of litigation are that once you file a complaint, that's just the beginning. That's not the end. That doesn't mean that the relief you ask for is awarded immediately. And an example of that is a Politan situation where the city did sue in 2010. It went to court, the court said, no, you have to go to arbitration. The city is seeking termination, and then the arbitrator can't terminate. So when you take litigation in any case, there are multiple steps that take place before you have the final judgment. And any lawyers in the room know the first thing that happens is there's motions. There's a whole series of motions for many interlocutory appeals. There certainly will be discovery. And discovery is the process of each party finding out what the real truth is before you get to the court. It's not like the old days where you see on TV, you walk into the courtroom and there's a surprise witness. You can't have that in our modern system of the judiciary. So, what does discovery involve? It involves interrogatories, written questions and answers, very detailed and very specific. It involves document discovery. So in this case, there's thousands and thousands of documents that go back a very long time. This process is one that consumes a lot of staff effort in just responding to discovery requests. And the other aspect of discovery are depositions. And an aggressive defendant will try to depose everybody. They can think of it. Maybe some of you in this room, I don't know. But they will leave no stone unturned. And if you have on the other side of the table a deep-pocketed defendant, which you happen to have here in Madison Marquette, you have the tendency, I don't know, this could happen, of that defendant just trying to wear out the other party to the point where it's too expensive to continue. And so all of that is part of the process of litigation, and while litigation is going on, in our situation, Madison Asbury Retail still owns the properties, they're still deteriorating. It doesn't give you an instant gratification to sue. Which did. I am in the business of litigation. I can speak from experience about what happens when you're in litigation with a pocketed party. I have been defending, our firm has been defending a case involving tens of millions of dollars at stake, tens of millions. The complaint was filed in January 2010. We have had multiple discovery activities of the type I described. We've had multiple motions. We've had multiple trials. We've been to the appellate division, where we won in the appellate division. It has been appealed to the New Jersey Supreme Court. As I stand here today, I'm still waiting for the date of oral argument in the New Jersey Supreme Court. In a case that started in
In all due respect, can you please tell us where we stand as a city and with the casino? We don't want to war. Yeah, we want to know what we're going to do.
I've heard people say it's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time, because you need to know the foundational principles, so you can make an intelligent decision about what you want the city to do. So, I have more on litigation. For some reason, I don't know what it is, the font is smaller. In litigation, the city would be the plaintiff and bear the burden of proof. That means we have to prove beyond, by the preponderance of the evidence, that our case is valid. We have to prove a breach of the obligation to repair, operate, and maintain, subject to commercial reasonability. Remember that qualifier. We have to, it's not only a legal cost, it's also a cost for multiple experts to come in with respect to proving the condition complex and also addressing, to different experts to address the commercial reasonability of what needs to be done. I mention that because that all costs money, and the city bears that cost. The taxpayers of the city will bear that cost as it goes on. And as I mentioned in my example, the case I'm involved in, that case has been going on for 16 years. Now, when you, as I said, when you have a deep-pocketed adversary, they can try to wear you out. So be aware of that before a judgment is made about what the next step is. Now, I'm going to turn to a different topic, which is a more positive topic. Some of the comments I've been reading is about the $20 million grant that the city got. That went to the city, not to Asbury retail. And that was under a program from the American Rescue Funds. That was adopted by the legislature of New Jersey that authorized $100 million of those funds to be used for the preservation boardwalks. Asbury and many other communities which had boardwalks applied for that funding. Asbury sought 40 plus and got 20, and that number was the highest of any applicant. I believe it was Asbury, Atlantic City, and each received 20,000, and then it dribbled down from there. So what's that money for? Part of that money, $7 million of that money, went for the purpose of the city to repair the boardwalk, lighting, benches, I don't recall all the details, and construct 2 bathrooms on the boardwalk that they're in construction now. That left $13 million for the purpose of repairing, to some extent, the Paramount Theater. The application, as I mentioned, was over $40 million. There was a lot more ambitious program that was outlined for the Paramount Theater, but it whittled down to $13 million. And so here's what's going on with that $13 million. The first $1.3 million of that was identified in what we call a sub-grant agreement between the city and NAR to do an investigation of the structural condition of Paramount Theater and find out what needs to be done to make it secure structurally, and also identify what needs to be done to make it waterproof. That work has concluded. Now we're ready for phase 2 on Paramount Theater, which is to utilize the $11.7 billion, which must be spent by December 31st of this year, to do the work that has been identified in an investigative stage. That phase 2 agreement, we hope, will be ready for a vote at the meeting next week. If that happens, we had a meeting yesterday with the mayor, the deputy mayor, business administrator, the city's engineers, and myself, and representatives of NAR and March Construction, which is the company that they have engaged to do the actual construction. They have engaged Michael Graves' company to do the work on the historic aspects of it. Michael Graves is an internationally known firm. And we were told yesterday, if all this goes well, I'm not promising this because I haven't seen the paperwork yet. We're supposed to get it on Friday, so we get the documents ready for a vote on Wednesday. But if that happens, it's been said that construction could begin in March, by March, construction. So that is where things stand with that fund. And by the way, this is not money that has been given directly by the state to NAR. There's an agreement between the Department of Community Affairs and the city that controls how this is dealt with. It's very strict, controlled. And as regards the agreement between the city and NAR, they don't get paid unless they've done the individual work that will be set forth on what's called a schedule of values. And they don't get paid until they prove to the CFO that any requisition they're asking for has already been paid to, in this case, March. So NAR has to put that money out first, and then only then will the city pay for it. There will be an inspection by T&M, the city's engineers, to make sure that the work that they say they're going to do on that schedule of values has been done as is set forth in that voucher that they submit. So that money is not in MAO's hands, it's in the hands of the city. You will be questions later. I hear it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that come later. Now, I'm going to talk about the pending applications by NAR before the economic development authority. There's two types. One is historic preservation application for $8 million. Doesn't do much because NAR has said it's going to be over $100 million to do what they plan to do with the National Paramount Theater and Arcade. But there is an application for $75 million in tax credits under what's called the CAFE program, the Cultural Arts Facilities Expansion Program. A new program. There are some recipients of tax credits from that. The Mayo Theater in Morristown, some of you know that, they received $multi-million from that. And the Science Center in Jersey City, also a big recipient. So the money's going out from that program. And it will, if that happens, and we don't know if it will, if that happens, it will provide the nearest opportunity, by far, the nearest opportunity for those buildings to be rescued from the deterioration that's going through. The other alternatives that they have to take time and would be an uncertain outcome and would be expensive. This option is the clearest and most present opportunity for those facilities to be refurbished. And that is pending before the Environment and Economic Development Authority, as I mentioned. We want to see that happen, because if that happens, it infuses funding into that program. Now, it's not a total free process for the city. 10% of the project cost, not 10% of the taxpayers, 10% of the project cost has to be put up as equity by the owner in order to qualify. There are many conditions that will take time to play out. There has to be an agreement between EDA and the recipients. There is a requirement that the agreements provide public access at certain times and hours for public. There is a process also where the tax credits are not money, they're credits that are sold to people who need to pay taxes, and they buy those credits. The example is, if you owe $10 in taxes, you find somebody who has these credits, and you pay them maybe 85 cents on the dollar. So it will not produce cash in the amount of the credits that are provided. There's some loss of the cost of doing that. So there are many steps that will not immediately provide boots on the ground and the repair of those facilities, but will set in motion, if that happens, the process for that to be the outcome. Now, part of our presentation is to talk about some frequently asked questions. I know you can't read this, so we are going to take turns explaining what these.
So I'll just go through some of these with you, and you're gonna have your own opportunity to speak, obviously. These are some frequently asked questions, things that maybe you're too shy to ask or maybe not. But these are the things that we've heard about the most. So let's start with the most popular one. Can the city take back title to the convention hall or the casino or any of the other properties if there's a default? The answer to that is no, because as you heard Joe say, that was a remedy in the 2002 agreement, but the 2002 agreement was essentially replaced by the 2010 agreement, which set out its own remedies, which do not include taking back or anything of that sort. Does the expiration of the redevelopment plan mean that the agreements with Asbury Partners and Henry Retail also expire? No. The redevelopment plan can expire, but the redevelopment agreements are agreements between parties and they are binding outside of the efficacy of the redevelopment plan or not. So if the redevelopment plan expires, the city can adopt a new plan if they want to, but the agreements are still around and they're as binding as they were before. Joe, I don't want to use those things. So, the next one, does MAR pay real estate taxes to Asbury Park? Yes, they pay conventional taxes, and the last time we asked, this is the number that was being collected by the city, almost $1 million amongst all of those boardwalk buildings that we talked about. If the city wins in a litigation, if the city starts a litigation and the city wins in the litigation, does the city get their legal fees back? No. That, in New Jersey, we follow the American rule of litigation, which is every party pays for themselves, nobody gets any money back. There's very few types of cases that allow for fee shifting. This would not be one of them. So I'm going to go back to Joe.
So the next one is, But do payments and little taxes take money out of kids' pockets for developers? No, we're not getting into pilots tonight, there's been a pilot demonstration, maybe another one, but just to deal with that. No, the school budgets, if approved, by whatever the mechanism is, by, whether it's approved by vote or whatever, is fully funded by the taxpayers. Then the other one is, oh, I'm going the wrong way. This one is, we touched on this earlier, do city taxpayers pay for the infrastructure in the waterfront redevelopment area? No, as I said before, the sidewalks, the curbs, the drainage, the storm, all of that is paid for through the special assessment process. And it is part of the bill that's paid by the new condo owners. If the properties are demolished or fallen to collapse, is Mar entitled to build residential and commercial properties on those sites? No, I think some people have been saying, no, they want it to go down so they can build high rises on the sites. They cannot. And that is certainly true because of that easement with conventional home property, that's in perpetuity. But with respect to the other sites, it's controlled by the redevelopment plan and the capital permit, which do not permit those types of uses on those properties. I think we are done. Is there one more? Yeah, timelines. Are there specific timelines or schedules that govern MAR's performance in the 2010 agreement? No. No, they're not. There's no timelines or schedules. They were included in the dispute resolution agreement that I spoke about earlier. And that dispute resolution agreement was expressly terminated by the terms of the 2010 agreement with MAR. So that option of using the schedules is not explicit schedules. There's always arguing that there are reasonable schedules implied, but it's heavier. And I think that answers the slide. And thank you for your attention.
We are now in public participation. May I have a motion to open the meeting to the public? All in favor? Public participation portion of the meeting is now open. Any member of the public who wishes to speak, please use the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and there will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker.
I can see them. It's just far. It's just far. You want me to go around? Yeah, I can see them from here.
Can everybody hear me in the hall?
Yes, hold on 1 second.
Just as I said at the beginning, 3 minutes expires. Feel free to finish your sentence. All right, thank you. Hello, my name is Charles Latta. I reside at 35 Charles Court, Ocean, New Jersey. I am the treasurer and founding officer of Save Asbury Parks History, a New Jersey profit organization. Henry Carroll, Bruce Guffer, and I created a nonprofit out of frustration 4 years ago when the Paramount Theater Convention Hall were closed to the public. We tried to get some traction and this place went dormant. Now I have to throw away my prepared speech because our attorney was very helpful in helping us understand the mess we're in. And my first comment is, I have extensive experience as a CPA, an auditor, a controller, and a CFO. I've been through the condemnation court twice in my history, as well as in commercial litigation. So I feel I'm fairly authorized to speak on these opinions, and they are opinions. And the other thing I want to say is we don't want to fight the city.
Everybody here wants to save the building. Not like it's too late to do anything about it, but do we have recourse to sue the living daylights out of the attorney who advised the council and mayors who signed 2020? Sue the hell out of them. They destroyed our opportunity to get relief under the U.S. Constitution. And I don't know what to say. I'm flabbergasted when I heard that we gave away all of our rights because we felt these people from Europe who were billionaires were going to be good stewards of our history. Now, these are all off the cuff, so I apologize if I'm a little emotional. All right. Now, what I'd like to say is, in a 30-second review, I agree. If we go into litigation with these people, we can discuss it further, but it looks like a path to nowhere. The most logical path to success, in my opinion, is condemnation. And here's what I would like to announce to the crowd. All right. I gotta find the right page. Okay, I'm happy to announce an anonymous donor has contacted me and pledged to fund $100,000 to the city from our nonprofit if we can vote to move this process forward to save these buildings. And if it's decided for condemnation, we'll go to the lawyer fees for condemnation. In addition, this benevolent anonymous individual will match another $100,000 if this group can feel within themselves to start donating to save Asbury Park's history. We're going to $300,000 to start the condemnation. Now, respectfully, Mr. Attorney, I know a lot about commercial real estate appraisals. I was in the land development and home building business for 11 years, including commercial buildings. The smart thing to do is for you as an attorney to order an appraisal. Under attorney-client privilege, if the number is too high, it disappears, and you find a friendly appraiser to get a reasonable appraisal. Do you agree? All right, I have to finish this by saying that the only thing else I have to add is that I think his appraisal number will be lower because the rents are low, and I don't think that building will appraise for 20 million today to the low rent. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Henry Powell. I was part of the original development. I analyzed this. Right here, tonight, on how these documents were changed. It's, somebody belongs in jail.
Somebody said, people in the back say, don't take stuff.
What
People in the back say they can't hear.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me start off. I was part of the original development.
Closer to the mic.
In 1984. I bought the Berkeley Carteret Hotel for $300,000 when I tear it down. And guess what? I restored it, public-private funding, and I put a bond up to guarantee it would be done. As far as these changes, somebody belongs in jail. Yes. The Convention Hall, Paramount Theater, any other buildings. Another thing. I built the Sunset Avenue Pavilion. When I built it in 1963, we had a 20-year bonded roof, which meant the roof was good for 20 years. 60 years later, they just put a damn roof on that building, and you wonder why the damn things are falling apart. We have to do something to get rid of Madison Marquette, and we'll use the damn money to work. We formed this nonprofit, and the board members are Ernie Astis, the actor man on the news in New York, Carter Sackman, myself, Bruce Pelton, Chuck Lavin, Beth Stavola, and Philip Michaels from the Michaels family, who owns a hedge fund. We have the wherewithal to do this, and we want to do it. We want your help. We don't want to be against you. We want to work with you. That's all I got to say.
Dan Schoenmayer, 615. Thank you. Dan Schoenmayer, 615 Asbury Avenue. I want to thank the council for having this meeting, and you guys have been good stewards, and you would handle the mess. Over 20 years ago, I railed against this agreement, this project. Al Fayolo and the prior councils sold us down a river. I don't speak lightly about condemnation. I've been the mayor in New York City for 40 years. 42nd Street redevelopment project that was involved in Hudson Yards, Atlantic Yards, Metro Tech, the rebuilding of the World Trade Center. I said the original Asbury Partners, the fishermen's were a bunch of thieves, they were no good. They got out. When I said decades ago when this agreement was signed, and this is the problem we're facing now, and I can't believe Madison Marquette were fools enough to believe the fishermen. The retail could never make it alone. It could not pay to redo these buildings. The whole quid pro quo from the agreement from the beginning was you got the money from selling the condo land, and that went to fix the buildings. Madison Marquette, I stopped in 2007, 2008 when Madison Marquette came in and they put the roof on the carousel building and stuff like that. I mean, how long do we have to be abused by them? So I'm not saying rush into condemnation, but I'm telling you, council, you have to get rid of Madison Marquette. They will never do it. And I'm telling you, I pushed Harry Reid, even though it didn't work out great, the arbitration. I pushed him to leave. I said to him, a gun is like a ham sandwich, the other side knows you're never going to hold. You are the 800-pound gorilla in the room, is the city. You need to come down on ISTAR. I know ISTAR can't even control it. It's part of Madison Marquette. There is much that you can do to make it very uncomfortable, the Madison Marquette and Asbury Park. And be afraid of litigation. Again, what I said, a gun is as good as a ham sandwich if they're not going to pull the trigger.
This is Tom. Tom, thank you so much for your time. This question is really directed.
Can I have your name and address, please, sir?
I will in a second. My name is Isaac Friedel. I'm the founder of the Jersey Shore Dream Center, also a member of the Run-Up-Palooza Committee. And our Dream Center, we do a lot of outreach work in Asbury Park, help a lot of the children, a lot of the displaced youth here in Asbury Park High School. And we are the beneficiary for the Run-Up-Palooza, which is taking place on April 11th. And this race, it brings in so much business to the town. There's over 4,000 runners that participate in it. The race has been going on for over 25 years. And without this race, it would really jeopardize a lot of the work that the Dream Center is doing. And to see that the casino has now been shut down, that is the route that we run directly through. And my direct question is on April 11th, number one, is it going to be open by then? And if not, secondly, would it be able to be open specifically for that race that does so much for the city of Asbury Park, so much for the children, so much for the high school here, and the work that our Dream Center does?
Let me answer that. We can't tell you when it's going to be done, but we do have an alternate route that may be great for your, if the booth, okay, this is great. We're working on an alternate route that other people have used very successfully, so you don't have to cancel altogether. We'll do our best to work together with you. In case it's not done, you have a plan B.
The problem, the alternate route is to go over the.
If he's done, let's take your name and your address.
Okay, my name is Bob Oath, and I'm the member of the Jersey Shore Running Club, and I'm the race director for Run-Up-Palooza that we just talked about. And as Isaac indicated, we could use an alternate route. We've been actually looking at alternate routes. The problem is, if the alternate route goes over the footbridge over Wesley Lake in Ocean Grove, that path is very narrow. And we have 4,000 runners that come from 20 different states and several countries,
And they're all expecting that course to be, the course must be, it's a New Jersey State championship race. And that course must be measured and certified and approved. And that takes time. So we need to know as soon as possible when, if that route is not going to be available, so we can have an alternate. And we have to start measuring now. It doesn't, we can't do it like in 10 minutes. It takes a couple of weeks to measure it and then get the approvals. So we need to know. So that's all I have to say. I mean, if you have an alternate route that we could use, I'd love to hear that alternate route.
Okay, call Lisa Floyd tomorrow. She'll give it to you. Talk to Joe Fiore, who worked with before. He'll explain it to you. Other people, we're not saying use the footbridges in Dover Park. An alternate route just in Asbury Park that 2 other people used this past winter. So there is another route out there that we're working. So,
But remember, we're a half marathon, 13.1 miles.
You.
And
they can call tomorrow and start working on it. Okay? I'm appreciating everything that's done.
Hello, Council. My name is Cerise. I live in Howell, New Jersey right now, 1508 Salerno Way. I am looking to buy and or rent in Asbury Park if anybody's renting. I don't need someone to live, so that I can come here. So good evening. Thank you so much for planning and executing this informational session in response to our concerns. Thank you to the attorneys as well for the redevelopment plan. You did an excellent job, really excellent job. Thank you for explaining all of that. It had to be a little bit. Originally, I planned to compile a list of unfortunate missteps by the municipal council, previous municipal councils, including a tally of votes and or redevelopment plan and other plan changes which benefit key developers in town and not the city. Instead, I'd like to be a voice to encourage this council to act in a way that no other council before you has acted. Asbury Park can be the absolute best version of itself it can be in a very long time. I know about being the best version of myself. I know Asbury Park is going to be the best version of itself with your leadership and with our help, if we can all work together and put our differences aside. I would like you to be aggressive, be strategic, enlist help from allies, artists, residents, whom you represent. We need you as much as you need our votes. And let us be more than just button-pushing balloters. We're on your team, and you're on our team. You'll never hear people like us out here in New York say that this is impossible. We're visionaries, we're dreamers. We hope that you can see what we see for the ocean, for the waterfront, and for our skyline. Please don't let Madison Marquette or any other developer in the future steal that from us. Please continue to be strong for us. Continue to look out for the city. We need you, this city, and Convention Hall, the casino, the Carousel House, and the steam plant are our identity. Buildings, historical buildings like this are the identity of the city. Our spirit lives in those buildings, and we need you to carry that spirit on. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you for allowing me to explain what I believe the blueprint of our community looks like. I've lived here for over 20 years. I was pushed out because I was priced out, but I'm on my way back, and I can't wait to stay. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Thomas DeSetto. My office is on Route 66 in Neptune. Increase my time increase my time. Never worked. In any event, I'm here to tell you that contrary to what was asserted on these screens, the 2010 agreement, I'm talking about just the casino, the 2010 agreement does not apply to the casino. What you didn't see up on that screen, but you can see up on my website, DeSettoLaw.com, wrote the blog, I wrote 3 recent articles about this.
What you didn't see up there was section 4, the operative section that says what buildings are governed by this contract in 2010. It lists the pavilions, 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, Sunset. It lists Convention Hall. It lists the Paramount Theater. It does not list the casino. It is not covered in the 2010 agreement. More proof, go down to the construction section. Also in section 4, just later, lists dates for each project. No dates for the casino because it's not in there. The default section says specifically it only applies to the buildings referenced in section, I'll give it to you, 4A2. That's the buildings I read. Casino's not in the 2010 agreement. And I agree with Mr. Marzini on the part that he did show that said this only governs Madison Marquette, or MAR, to the extent that it differs from 2002, or that there's a conflict with 2002. That's exactly right. There's no conflict with the 2002 agreement on the casino because it's not in the 2010 agreement. You have to go back to the 2002 agreement for that default provision, which says you can start litigation, not condemnation, a contract action, to declare them in default and take that building back. And anybody who wants to call me, more than 3 minutes to talk to me, I promise you, because this has been going on for 45 years and you deserve it. Also, on my website, absolutely, we entered into pilot agreements that take money from the schools and give it to the developer. You can see the block section, I give that whole detail. I want to remind everybody too, because this has been going on for so long, these contracts were front-loaded for the developers. They got all their benefits up front, the redevelopment rights, the buildings are practically nothing. We let them eminent domain our neighbors. Ask Eliopolis, ask Karpinski, ask George Carroll. We let them take their homes. Then, when it came time for them to do their infrastructure, they said no, and we let them take the school money. All we were supposed to get in return was these 2 big buildings fixed, and they refused to do it. So I'm going to ask you, please take a look at what I wrote on there. We definitely can take the consumer back, and I pray that 3 to 5 of you, which is always the case, votes to do that. Thank you.
My name is Bruce Belfer.
You.
And I'm at 900 4th Avenue, Asbury Park. I'm here because I love Asbury Park. I think everybody else is here because they love Asbury Park. Is Madison Marquette here? Let's see. I would like to thank the council, the mayor, and the attorneys for the presentation. It's exactly what you need to do. People that are part need to understand what's going on. And as Tommy said, it's been going on for quite too long. Many of you may know me from vouching security work I've done in town, but I have a day job. My day job is I'm an engineer. You should try talking to this microphone. I'm a mechanical engineer. And I work on a lot of old buildings. And one of the old buildings that I was working on was the Grand Central Station in New York City. Grand Central Station was designed by the exact same architects that designed the casino, the convention hall building. And we're in the middle of another round on Grand Central Station. I want to draw attention to one thing in particular, and that is that back around 2011, the copper panels were removed from the side of the convention hall, ostensibly or purportedly for the purpose of inspection. They were then put in a pavilion building where they were reported as stolen sometime later, months later. I was at the Stevie Crane building when that issue was discussed. And as much as I was hoping that Madison Marquette would get these jobs done, when they did not rust-proof the interior of the building and recover the sides of the building where those copper panels were, it made me question their motives. Why are the sides of the building still open to the elements? Why has it been left that way for over a dozen years now? And when it comes to the discussion of, what was it, the standard was commercially reasonable, and the burden of proof was on Asbury Park. The burden of proof was just plastered to the side of the casino, a little red tag that said demolition. Here's your proof. Right there, that's their intent. Number one. And number two, when a client has deep pockets and refuses to do what's necessary, what is to stop us from doing what is necessary and sending Mr. Deep Pockets a bill? And then if they don't pay the bill, then you take them to court for not paying the bill. This stuff, if we don't act, these buildings are going to come down and be gone forever. They're the jewel of the Jersey Shore. Can't be left out. Can't be left out.
My name's Seth Pierper. I live at 314 Parkview Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey. I've got 4 things I'd like to get out there. First and foremost, thank you very much for the presentation. Very moving. I'd like to talk about things other than what I talk about dereliction, things falling apart, so on and so forth. 2 things come to mind when I hear that. First and foremost, code violations. If we're watching things fall apart before our eyes, there's now a 16-year history of this from 2010 to the present. Where are the code violations? In addition to that, where are the safety violations? Because these are historic buildings. You can't simultaneously have a demolition order and then say that it's in good condition. That to me just, I can't intellectually come to terms with that. Secondly, in addition to living here in Asbury, my girlfriend and I also live up north in Hoboken. And I'm very happy to say that Hoboken was able to, through innocent take control of the waterfront from New York Water. Right. That is a success story. That is something that we can look to as something that we could see ourselves with. Third thing, when we look at New Jersey and where things are, we've got a lot of buildings that are going up, but what is the long-term plan? Atlantic City had a lot of buildings happen, had a lot of casinos that went up, and that is the main goal there. But their infrastructure is not in as good a condition as ours is. And if we don't see ourselves with the historical nature of this community and really invest in making that our future, then we're doomed to a similar fate as Atlantic City. Finally, we're citizens. I'm 100% disabled veteran, and that means a lot to me, that we are citizens. And we can come together and hold others to account. And by that, I mean hold them account to being in compliance with the code, hold them to account for being in compliance with what's required for safety. And we can do this if we mobilize and utilize the resources that exist in this community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Olive. I live at 306 Dealey Drive, and I'm very impressed by people who can speak extemporaneously without notes. Ergo, I'm going to read what I wrote for this meeting. I really appreciate the meeting tonight and was really coming here to urge you all to prioritize transparency in our town's development processes, not as a procedural formality, but as a foundational principle of good governance. The governing decision shape the physical character of our town and determine how residents experience our neighborhoods for generations. These decisions matter deeply to people, and people deserve to understand them. Meaningful transparency means providing clear timelines, accessible documentation, and early notice of proposed developments and changes. It means explaining not just what is being decided, but why. It means creating opportunities for dialogue like this tonight, before plans are finalized, not after decisions are made or feel inevitable. Our town is strongest when residents feel and are informed, respected, and included. By committing to transparency and openness, you demonstrate confidence in your decisions and respect for the people you serve. I applaud the hosting of this session tonight and urge you to continue strengthening communication practices so that growth in our community reflects both sound planning and shared understanding. After hearing the wonderful presentation tonight, I'm wondering if you could continue to provide such transparency by providing a specific timeline for the short-term and immediate repairs of the casino building and the reopening of our boardwalk. Also, we would love to see an additional page on the city's website that would include all archived and currently publicly available information on this issue, and really to encourage the residents to continue to work with you. The permit was filed a few weeks ago. I began working with a small but mighty committee of area residents, and we formed a group called Save Our Structures Asbury Park, or SOSAP for short. We invite everyone here to please visit our website, sos-ap.org, for updates. We must organize to create a sustained movement for the historic preservation and respectful, adaptive repurposing of our historic structures. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Put your phones down. Put your phones down. People that say up here to talk to you, put your phones away. Try to speak those. If anyone wants to speak,
Okay. Good evening. Thank you to the council for calling this meeting. We needed these facts. Thank you for the presentation. It was very enlightening. It is depressing. Thanks to everybody who came out tonight too. We all love Asbury. And as Chris just said, a group of local residents has formed Save Our Structures Asbury Park. That's SOS-AP.org. Because we believe these buildings and the community deserve better. Come see one of us after the meeting, and we'll connect you with resources and keep you up to date on the next steps. Even before I moved here, one of my greatest pleasures was walking and biking the boardwalk to Asbury. Imagining the day I lived close enough to have that boardwalk as my front porch. Walking through the casino always felt magical. That deep pool on a hot summer day feels like you've stepped into another world. Now at the casino, all I see are fences, do not enter signs, red stickers, and lack of repair. I can't count on bumping into my neighbors anymore, which is exactly why people move to walkable cities. As one of the gentlemen said earlier, we need access. And instead of access, we have empty promises from Madison Marquette and a Berlin wall and cheap fencing between us. We need the boardwalk open. Weeks ago, Madison Marquette posted from the Asbury Park boardwalk account a name that sounds like the city's own friendly voice, and many people trusted it when it said repairs were coming and the path would reopen. Has anybody seen the path reopen yet? No. Hell no. But I walk there almost every day. Nothing has happened, no work. I still see red stickers everywhere and a red dumpster. Madison Marquette has betrayed us, and we need a solution that involves a builder who can do the job right. To borrow from the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Madison is selling a sedative that was meant to lull people back to sleep while the casino continues to disintegrate.
Asbury Park is a boom town now. People want to be here. We should not be held hostage by questionable decisions made 20 years ago while our historic buildings crumble on our watch. The condition of these contracts are complex and daunting, but that doesn't mean we should roll over and die. We need development that respects our past and our future. We commit to working with you and making life very uncomfortable for Madison Marquette. Ladies go. Hi everyone.
Better.
Better? Okay. Being on the code, that's what I'm listening for. Thank you so much for bringing the meeting, the presentation as well. I was late, so when I was going to talk about it, I will not mention because I missed the first bit and we probably talked about it more for you than I did. I will say, in a week, you're supposed to be approving an agreement to start the work on Paramount. And that's going to be paid in arrears for work done. We've got 10 months to get that done, just under $12 million to do it. That's an incredibly tight timeline. That all the details. I mean, do they have materials stockpiled? Do they have labor lined up? Is there a project manager or someone responsible for the city who is overseeing that? At least an accountant who's going to be taking stuff in, because they're going to have to front a great deal of money to hire people, to get materials. You know, it's just not that easy. You only have 10 months to get that done. You know, $1.2 million a month, it's a reasonable burn rate. I mean, I'm happy with shopping, but I don't think that would be want done with money. So I just hope someone's on top of that. And that's not just an approval, and then we have to do the contract negotiations. Thank you. Oh, and if we could hire some locals as part of that, that would be really great.
So I think the best part is hire locals.
If we could put that as part of it, that'd be great.
It's got to be a PLA. It is a PLA. Project labor agreement. It is. And as far as you're right, it is a tight contract. And that's what scares the heck out of us. That's why we've been having 5 weekly meetings with them, which haven't been that productive until yesterday. And the good thing about it is, you're right, they have to front the money. So if they front the money, and we don't reimburse them because it's something National Marquette is supposed to make, we're not going to give them any money until we have to. And that means they did the work, and the work is completed.
Which is great, and I'm glad that town took control of the grant and that Madison didn't, get it themselves. However, it does mean the work might not get done, right? If it needs to be done by the end of the year for us to receive that money and disperse that money, they don't really have that much to lose unless there's penalty clauses in the contract itself.
Well, they pay March construction to do work, and it doesn't come in within the time frame, we're not paying them, so Madison Marquette loses the money.
That's fair. What if they don't bother doing it?
Then we won't let it go that far. We'll send the money back to the state of New Jersey, make them look even dumber.
Okay, then we prepare us, not done. So I'm just saying, I hope the people on our side will be on top of that.
We are.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Spencer Pellis. I'm at 1018 Fifth Avenue. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone in Asbury Park that came out tonight. There was a protest organized 2 weeks ago that I attended. It was a negative 8-degree wind chill, and people were out there. Because it's one thing to be a talking head on the desk and everything, but it's another thing to be boots on the ground, showing up to our events. And
peaceful protest where we shared stories, and frankly, it was a really heartwarming moment. I didn't want to wake up on the Saturday for a protest in sub-degree weather. You had this wonderful presentation, and we keep dilly dallying over the main issue that you did a wonderful job showcasing that billionaire oligarchs can do whatever the hell they want as long as they can just write out the processes. Ooh, they're not going to get them the money that they're going to give them. Yeah, they're really hurting over the front. I'm really looking forward to Christmas. Why should we have faith in anything that any of this is going to play out? It's been decades of the same crap over and over. Before they came up here, you all have level heads, and I appreciate your words. Back to you all. Why should we think that we're going to actually do it? Of course. Yes. That's right.
Proceeding forward, information like this, taking it all in, some offers have been made, we're going to study some of the offers. We're not agreeing with everything that's being said tonight, where we may ask for something down the road. And, you got 5 people up here that probably did in Asbury Park. I know I've been in Asbury Park, not as long as Henry, but a long last time. I great grandfather moved here in 1888. I worked for the city. You're right, everybody in this room loves Asbury Park. Trust us, we're going to do the best that we can do. We got the students' interest at heart. But again, just to openly say, we're going to sue you. I don't, me personally, this is my personal opinion. And I asked the Lord if he could do this. I said, can we do a referendum and let the taxpayers, the homeowners, the people that live in Asbury Park, not the people from Powell, Roxon, whatever, decide? Because if we take this case and we lose, this would put the town in bankruptcy. And that's something I don't know if I can morally vote on, because when Dan convinced Terry Reed to sue him in 2010, and it was like, we got him by the balls. We're going to win this case. And the city got their ass kicked. And what happened? They spent hundreds, if not millions of dollars on the lawsuit. And then we got the 2011 Politan agreement where it said work together. And I was in those meetings with Dan in.
But John,
there's no cross conversation. There's no cross conversation, Dan.
Save the one property.
There's no cross conversation, Dan. Right, the George Carey House was not condemned by eminent domain. So, again, it's just tough for me to say, hey, we may take this law case, we may lose, and that could put a lot of people in worse shape than they are now. If the lawyer said, we're not like the Board of Education, the quickest we could have a referendum is November, and that's way too long to figure this out. So all options are on the table, and I hear you loud and clear. I mean, again, I morally right now cannot vote to sue that, knowing that if we lose, then we're going to maybe put the city in bankruptcy. If we lose. And that's a big thing. Give me one minute.
Don't start yet, because I'm going to talk to Tommy, who's also been in town for many, many years. And Tommy, everyone who's looked at his website has sent me this decision about how we can take back the casino. So I went through his analysis. The council talked to Joe, and we disagreed. We disagreed. We believe the casino is listed in the 2010 agreement under the paragraph Tommy's talking about. That being the case, knowing his analysis thinks that we can, we're going to have an independent, retired judge adjudicator of some sort, review Tommy's analysis, review the city's analysis to determine whether or not Tommy's analysis is right. The casino is not governed by the 2010 agreement. I want to be on the record, the city believes it is. But with all due respect, a guy who's been around a long time, a smart guy says that, you know what, I don't think it is. I think it's governed by the 2002 agreement. We'll have an independent third-party reviewer, okay?
Good evening, I'm Michaela Murray, 408 Asbury Avenue. thank you, first of all. We've all been reading the, Facebook keyboard warriors who just graduated from Facebook law school and think they have this solved in the last 3 weeks. I appreciate laying out all the pros and cons. I understand that some of the options could be awesome, right, if we won. They could be very risky. They could take another decade. They could cost $10 million that we don't have. Or, people keep suggesting Bruce Springsteen could fall from the sky and fix the whole thing himself. But I'm a pragmatist, so it sounded like the best possible option right now, while we look at what Tommy had to say and review the options and keep all options on the table, is that this EDA funding at $75 million would come through. So, as the very energized, passionate, tax-based Asbury Park, who, if anyone, could we lean on to have that grant funding come through? Is it a matter of talking to Vin? Is it a matter of rounding to the governor's office? God knows we have enough political things to call all of our politicians about, this decade. But I also deeply love that building. I love what Jen is doing with it. I love this town. And I want to see it saved. So if there is someone that we could be rallying to see those funds granted, I think that the citizens of the town would like to know that and would certainly activate our collective voices. Also, I have said this to members of the council before, I will say it again, I'm a professional grant writer. I do pro bono work for various nonprofits in the town. I am not the only one here in town. We raise figure grants like it's having a cup of coffee. We can help match some of those funds. We take it out for yes! There's at least 12 of us in town I can think of offhand who would help do those pro bono grant applications without thinking twice about it. So activate us. We are your assets and we're here. And if it's a matter of harassing some politicians, like I work from home, I got time. So,
what are you doing tomorrow? I want you to go to City Hall.
Okay. I can do Friday morning.
Talk to the city manager. And I love people volunteering to write grants.
Yeah.
You're hired.
I'm just I'm literally meeting with Bob Chase tomorrow to finish Trinity's roof and repointing and windows and handicap access for the Code Blue shelter. So like Friday morning, I can do it.
How about Friday the 12th?
Friday
The EPAs, it's their decision who does the EPA work for, the governor, who does the governor have. So
What's your answer to giving this money to a private
Come
owner?
on, guys, you have to come to
All right, and the government's not giving this money to a private owner.
That's
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 opinion.
That's the thing, what about interrupting it's the last time. Good, please do, we're working it out. So, Dan, so it's Friday, who do you get in contact with District 11, I am as your partner, elected representatives, and the government.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Felicia Simmons, and I'm president of WCC Historic Renovation Association, formerly known as the West Side.
We should get close to the mic. Louder. Best side.
Right, on the other side of town. But
Best side.
Best side. Right, I've lived in this town, on all parts of the town my entire life. In fact, I used to go to the jump off point, that's what we called it in my day, the other side of the casino, the Black Beach, right, my whole life. I walk through the casino, but I sit here and watch and listen, right? To mention what Amy just said, that she didn't agree with Tommy. Your own lawyer said earlier that the casino was not mentioned in this presentation inside of the 2010 agreement. I sit here and listen to all the things, being in these meetings for the last couple of decades, being in a similar one about the beach club a few years back when the first SOS came to me, right? And I'm sitting here appalled, because I've talked to you, some of you, about 13 years about these certain things. And I'm on the edge of tears, sitting up here understanding that we blame it on Madison Marquez, a finger pointing there. But the truth is, the people who are supposed to represent us have not represented us. Right? We died when we had a chance to sit up there and hold them to a fire. When we sit up there, we have permits. They don't own the land. These are people's private homes, which we've taken to turn into parking lots so we can give to big developers to make $1 million houses. And that is not fair. For y'all to sit up there and say, well, we might spend too much money. You just bonded for the firehouse. You bonded for other kind of things. We give hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to the water treatment plant. We don't do anything for the people. The infrastructure is still not done. Hence, we're swinging and rolling down these streets a couple years ago. So what are we really going to do? Right? I sat up there just to watch the plan saying, well, there's no negotiation. It was never written. Why haven't you written a plan? You know this is happening for over a decade. You've been sitting here, some of you, most of you, for over a decade. Right? You can't blame it on other people. It's when you get into the job, you take up the cross for everybody sitting here. And for me to sit up here, some people this might be the first time. Right? It might be the second or third, but me, I've been coming to this for decades. And I'm offended. I'm offended. You can do something. And to say that pilot programs don't steal from children, that is a flat out lie. When you come in the S2 is played by millions, and the pilot program is not paying, and but they're assessing the property for everybody in town, that is why you get double picked. You get triple picked. And you're assessing the property by the county every year to market rate. We're being screwed, and there's nobody defending us. They don't have a responsibility to us. We're a toy to them. They're a $1 billion industry. It is y'all. And we have to do something. Don't just sit there and talk about it. Actually do.
Yeah, girl.
So when I started transferred the boardwalk structures from retail to MAR, when you say transfer, that means sell. What was that number? Do you know? We have no idea. Anybody know what iStar sold in the second casino to them to? Or under the
It was about 2.5 million. I got a credit for the board. Sorry we don't have that information. Okay, well,
I was just curious myself.
yeah, appreciate all this talk.
A lot of my questions, Annette kind of went down the path I was going to go. So a lot of my questions are specifically about the job that's lined up for the waterproofing and I think it was the structural elements of Paramount. Where you said that there was something coming up in a week that we're waiting on. What is that? What's coming in a week? Or yeah, I guess now you have a week to respond. What is that?
I don't have a microphone. Oh, yes, you do. So the question is about the Paramount Theater and what I said earlier about what might happen in a week. And that is the approval of the addendum to what we call the sub-grant agreement between the city and Madison Asbury Retail. That the first phase, I'll just repeat that, provided $1.3 million to do an investigation, to see what had to be done. And now that happened, all those results are done. We've been told that the construction documents are done. We met yesterday with the representative of MAR, as well as the Blue March from March Construction. And what we're waiting for are a few items. We're waiting for the project description, exactly what are they going to do. We know it's not gonna be anything interior, it's not gonna be open. Waterproofing structure, but we don't have a full description of that. We want a project schedule. These will be exhibits to the agreement. We want a schedule of values. What's the schedule of values? It is, well, you seem to know. It's a list of all those sub things they're going to be doing.
When it's gonna happen and how much that's going to be.
What each item is worth, so that when they look for a payment after, say, a month, they submit a requisition to the engineer, the city's engineer, T&M, will review that to check it against the schedule of values to make sure that what's in that requisition has actually been done. And then the payment will be made only if we have proof that MAR has actually paid the contractor for that work. So wait for that schedule of values. It's very important.
That's all stuff that where you guys be already.
We've been asking for that for months.
You're expecting it this week.
We're expecting it Friday. Maybe it'll dribble into Monday, I don't know, and I'm ready to drop everything to get this
And then
done.
according to them.
I'm not finished. Yeah, so the other thing we're working for is comments on the language in the sub-grant agreement, which they have had, the addendum, which they have had for months. So we're waiting for that as well.
They have to get back to you on that?
And they always get back to us.
And then according to them, they're telling you, hey, we're gonna send you these documents that you just described. You're gonna review them, I'm sure you have a pretty good time in which you have to review them 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. And then they said, okay, once you approve, they're gonna start.
Yeah, the plan calls for, and it may not happen, it calls for all these documents to come, for them to be acceptable to the engineers who are going to review them. I'm going to review the legal aspect. We're going to be plugging in these documents as exhibits to the binding agreement. And then, if all this happens, on next Wednesday at the meeting, it would be ready for a vote by the city council to approve it. They have to submit to us signed documents before the city council will vote, so that they're committed.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't get that done.
That's the promise we got. And I and Joanne, we dropped everything to deal with this. We've been pressing for this for a very long time. I'd rather have had it a long time ago, but I'm committed to do whatever we can to grab this opportunity so that, as we said earlier, they can get this done in a very short time.
Do we have an uncalendarized schedule for them saying once we start it's this long?
We're waiting for that schedule. That's one of the items I mentioned, project schedule. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. Believe it or not, I'm always nervous at these things. I'm never nervous with a saxophone in my hand, but speaking extemporaneously. My name is Karen Lee Schwartz, and I am a retired music teacher, one of the retired music teachers in this fine district. I did 35 years of my teaching career, 21 of them in this district. And for 14 years, this was my playground, this room you're in right now. So I want to take in this room. I want to point out that in the 14 years that I put on concerts on that stage with the Asbury Park High School Band and Chorus, it would have been great to look out and see this many people from the community. So the concern that I have, really, I don't know anything about buildings and money, and I can barely make ends meet month to month on a pension and Social Security. I know about music, and I know about children. I haven't heard the word children mentioned too many times here, but I'm here to raise awareness. I don't really have too much to say to the group up there because I don't know about these things. I know about the convention hall crumbling on our heads during graduation ceremony. When I had the band over there at convention hall, I do know about that. I don't care about Tilly. I really don't care about her. It's Tilly something. I like to appeal to the community to get more involved in the school system. You're the people I want to talk to today that don't go to Board of Education meetings, that don't know or care about the children that are on the other side, the brown children, who are the ones that are in the school system. How many of you know that there has not been a note of music played in this building since 2023? There is no high school band. Do you see what's on the back of my shirt? 14 years I gave my life, my blood, sweat, tears, with socks, sneakers, food in the mouths of these children because there wasn't enough money in the budget to buy pizza or to have band camp. To have band camp, there was no money for band camp, but there was money for everything else. You folks need to start going to the school. I know this is not your jurisdiction, my beef is not with you. I'm taking advantage of a room full of people. Asbury Park has not had a band since 2023. When there's a homecoming football game, you know who provides the music? Tiny Peterson, the middle school band director, does it as a volunteer, brings the middle school kids over, and I round up all the alumni, and the kids get to hear music for one football game. This is a town that says, where music lives, music saved Asbury Park. Where's the music in this building? You don't start music today until 6th grade. That's 3 years too late. Neptune starts in 3rd grade. By 6th grade, they're either on the football team, a cheerleader, or in a game. Thank you for your time. Please, for music, that's the power part of that. Thank you for that.
Hold on 1 second, please. Hey, Joe, before too many people leave, and they said, why don't you tell us? We're going to vote on 2 resolutions right at the end. So, Joe, explain the 2 resolutions, please.
Thank you for your service.
So the 2 resolutions are, one, to support the EDA tax credit applications, the cafe and the Spark credit applications, citing the fact in the resolution that has been said that the convention hall is iconic, designed by the same architects as the Grand Central Station in New York. It's a key aspect of the Jersey Shore, more detail than that, and asking that the resolution be forwarded to the governor, to the chairman of EDA, to the executive director of EDA, to the head of the State Historic Preservation Office, to Senator Gopal, to Senatorwomen Don and Peter Paul, and make the point that Asbury Park supports that application. As has been said, it is the nearest opportunity to get money in for that project. That's one resolution. The other resolution deals with the various other items that we've talked about tonight. The Boardwalk Arcade, I'll start with that. The point has been made that there's been a red ticket on the carousel. It was put on that building because it's connected to the Boardwalk Arcade. It's all one building. The problem is with the Boardwalk Arcade. Now, the pressure has resulted in a decision by MAR to repair. We have a letter from the engineer describing what needs to be done. And I believe it was yesterday that a permit was issued for that work to begin. This resolution acknowledges that fact and goes on to ask for what I heard was said, when it's going to be done. Number 2, the letter from Colliers, Mr. Dahl, the engineer, also said that there is work that must be done in the next year. And if it's not done, the building will need to be demolished. So we are requesting the schedule of what they're gonna do for that, and the plan to do that and hold that commitment. The resolution also deals with the casino and the power plant, casino building, carousel power plant. And I'll say one more time, that those projects are mentioned in the 2010 agreement. I had a slide that showed that what has to be done there, is mentioned specifically in that agreement, that there needs to be a subsequent development agreement. And so what this resolution is asking MAR to do is give us the plans for those buildings so that we may undertake the negotiation of that subsequent development agreement, which is specifically provided for in the agreement. I don't know how I can emphasize the fact that the casino buildings are mentioned in the 2010 agreement. So those are the items, as well as lastly, one more, and that is to then a structural report with respect to the condition of the power plant, the carousel, the building adjacent to it, and give us a schedule of when that will be submitted. So those are the two. Thank you.
You know, you totally scooped me, because my ending was gonna be, what are our action items? So, thank you. But, can I, in the line, thank you, Angela, Amy, John, Ron, and Eileen. I am co-conceived. I own it at 1035 Somerville Avenue. I bought it this homeless side in 2008. Defined my finances with the iconic uniqueness of art and music. Everything is different than any promotion in the world. Pick up on other commenters. I run 9 marathons. I trained for 5 of them here, for possibly 1,000 miles involving running for those buildings. To the logistics, the practical. If we think the legal system could fail us, is there a project plan that tells what needs are the most problematic ones that could possibly be handled in different ways? As in, are there a set of endeavors that we could put our only hands on the buildings? Physically, help as we can, however and whatever happens. If not architecturally, help them show our love the way that we can for our emotional, perhaps sharing with our networks and ourselves and our longings to create these images, possibly finding a pro bono lawyer who will be helping with this, perhaps at Pollyanna, bringing this to the capitalist side. If the needs of the buildings are brought up and offered as opportunities, are there companies who would eagerly sign on for a piece of it? Maybe that would take time, perhaps ultimately less time than 15 years of lawsuits. Is there a training, however this goes down, is there a training and awareness opportunity for our local schools, chip by chip, as a grant and a set of funding? What if we have a music project there and put it around the world to find out? Wouldn't that possibly create the imagery of who we are that could bring in funding to support emerging musicians? Many hands make light work. So, most importantly, as citizens, what are our action items? Are there deep pocket corporations in town? How do we reach to our networks? How do we show up the board? Support the funding in the cafe. Make sure that goes forward. Is that a lobbying campaign? Fundraising campaign, but it possibly could be. Jen Hampton of the Parlor rests with 500 grants from the state. We've heard someone who wants to contribute 100. Maybe that's a drop compared to the need, but it's not insignificant if there is a drumbeat. If we each put our hands on it, fix it. Is there a completely different model that says this city's people come forth and do something ourselves that shifts the legality? Then does that change that legal weirdness? And chip it, chip by chip. The lady who said volunteer, you just gave us action items. Is there a thing that we all can do? Thank you.
Check. I'm just Steve Miller, 516 Summerfield Avenue, musician, barber, contributor to culture here. My statement won't be much of technicality, but a little more sentiment, a little more in the moral substance or so. Thank you all for having this meeting and extending yourselves to do so, giving this information so eloquently. I do not envy your position at the moment, that's my profession. That being said, the issue with all of the construction of the boardwalk, I mean, it is just a symbol, it is a vessel for what's going on in this town, and the greater picture of it is just a way of saying that we are being overrun by obviously multi-billion-dollar corporations from out of state, out of the country, with no interest in us. We are completely interested in our community is getting replaced with gray condos by the week. It's way beyond Madison Marquette, it goes to iStar, it goes to Sac, because everybody is just divulging their interest. I don't mean to say that to be hoorah, I don't mean to say that to not have actual items, but when it comes to the any intersection that you may be, Mr. Mayor and the council, when you say, hey, I don't know if I have a moral obligation or if I can vote on these things, if you do not vote in favor of the people here, we are bending to the will of everyone outside of us. We have no voice, we have no power. You guys are our arm. Music saved Asbury Park, the culture here saved Asbury Park. There's gonna be no culture. I have stood in this mic before and said that. I have said that when Sackman was raising the rent 30% and drove the whole Steinbeck building out. I have been there to say that. There's generations of people in this crowd that love this town, that are here for whether they're born, they have history, they're transplants. There's culture here that needs to be preserved. There's only one way to do it. This is how it has to get done. There can be no question. We will take them at every single corner. I'm sure everybody in this building will say that whatever resolution, whatever litigation model, however long, however daunting, however whatever, we all want it done. Let's get it done. No one's going to say no on that. Admire the legality of it, but the sentiment needs to be remain the same. Nobody came out here because they don't care. Nobody spent the time here. This room should be sold out. This room should be sold out to the brim. This meeting should not happen on an emergency basis. It should not be a special occasion to see this flyer. It should be monthly. It should be quarterly. Whatever it has to be. This needs maximum transparency. You need events around this. You need better marketing around this. Give me a call. I ban the headline. We'll do whatever. This needs to be extended. I don't know if Bruce is coming. The folk hero that we want is sitting right here. You are, myself included. We are the folk heroes that we want. If we do not put pressure and at least show up to you respectfully and have this discourse, decisions be made behind closed doors with none of our future at all in mind, let alone our present. We all need to be here. Music can say that's their part, so can we. There's only one way to do it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patty Crum. I'm in Ocean Township, and I am fourth generation in this area. My mother graduated from East High School and we're here tonight, so she started in my class in 1946. I have some questions, and I'm going to keep it short, so hopefully some of you can get answers. Who are the parties at the table for the 2010 Madison Marquette Agreement? Was New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office present? And if not, does that challenge the legal integrity of the agreement? That's my first question. The second question is regarding the Palatine decision. After 15 more years of demolition by neglect, because that's what this is, demolition by neglect, has Madison Marquette truly worked in good faith as ordered? And can the arcade be declared as blighted and drastically devalued in any eminent domain hearing? Thirdly, with the pending tax application that you're voting on a resolution for tonight, what level of oversight and safeguards would the city and state be providing to ensure a timely and robust historic restoration of the site? Can the state or the city actually ensure there is significant consequences if Madison Marquette fails again? And lastly, what steps is the city taking to conversations with the current NJDEP and the governor about all of this to gather their support. And I'm happy to bring this.
I'll try to remember all those questions. I don't know who was at the table. Who's going to know? You asked, was the ship of state historic involved? Yes, they were. They actually sent for that easement agreement that specifically authorized the transfer of the property to Asbury Partners at that time. And that was done by that agreement. It had to be done because the agreement was involved. The other question was the Politan decision was not focused on good faith with MAR. It was focused on good faith negotiations with Asbury Partners, which is now iStar, to work out the infrastructure financing agreement. And that has been done. That is underway. That work on the infrastructure is continuing. And we drive through the waterfront redevelopment area. That's done pursuant to the result of those good faith negotiations following the Politan decision. I'm reading my own writing. You asked about oversight. If the tax credit program is issued by EDA, that's an EDA controlled transaction. It's not the city. But the requirement of the program is that, as I mentioned, would be a very specific agreement covering many aspects of the transaction. My understanding is that EDA has engaged private consultants to review applications, to vet these applications, and make sure that the projects are doable and can be done. And with respect to the historic aspects of the building, part of that is pursuant to plans prepared by Michael Graves Associates. They are internationally known architectural firm, very highly regarded in connection with historic restoration. And I think I got them all.
I just have one follow-up because I have a minute 15, so just a quick question. I understand the agreements will be staying, but I'm wondering if there are significant financial consequences on the other end. I worked with state issues and I do advocacy for many years, environmental advocacy for many years, and I know that enforcement is low. So what are the real enforcement, and this is a big company, they got to be significant and meaningful for this to actually
Yeah, well, let me get into a little bit of the weeds on how that program works. If the application is approved for 75, 83, combined the two, right? So that means, as I said, they don't get $83 billion. They tax credits that they sell. They have to find a buyer for those tax credits, and they're not going to pay on the dollar. They're not going to pay the full value. However, there is a project that is more than the net amount that we get from those tax credits. I mentioned that they have to put in their own equity, 10% of the project. The project has been variously described in my presence as being $100 million and $120 million. And in that case, it would be something like $20 million of an infusion of equity. And when that is granted, that approval is given, the tax credits don't come in one lump sum. They come over a 5-year period. So the recipient has to front the money, enter into a construction loan with a bank to finance the project before they get their tax credits. It's sort of like what I was describing as how we're doing with the Paramount Theater. We want to be proof that they spend the money. I don't know what the agreement's going to say that EDA is going to have, but I believe that it will be very firm and tight because under Governor Murphy, we may remember that he came in to reform this program, this tax credit program. There was criticism of how the earlier administration had done that, and they revamped it to make it tighter and more transparent and more solid and responsive.
Can you hear me? I'm now in Montfort, I live at 1501 Ocean Avenue. I have been in Asbury Park for 10 years, and I have stood by and listened to Madison Marquette lie to us and watched them as they really don't want to put any money into this city, they want to take money out. So I actually have this question that was one of the FAQs. If they do succeed in letting our iconic structures fall into the ocean, what can they do? If they can't build commercial or residential properties, what is their incentive to keep those properties? Is there a way for us to think out of the box? Is there a way for Madison Marquette to be incentivized to donate those properties to the city from our stewards, as opposed to theirs? We're not going to answer that now. I've been trained to think outside the box. Maybe it's a naive question, but I wanted to bring it up. Then we could perhaps have a public-private partnership, as has been done with the gorgeous Singles Theater in Staten Island and many other structures around the country, to restore our structures. So that's one thing. The second thing is, some of you may remember that I was one of the leaders of the organization called Save Asbury Waterfront, and we fought ISTAR against developing an elite pool club between 6th and 7th Avenues on the waterfront. There were many other factors involved. We fought for over 3 years against ISTAR. We rallied people from all over this city. People came to us for various reasons, environmental, social issues, etc. Maybe it's time for a public outcry to come back again. Maybe we need to stage protests in front of Madison Marquette or Madison MAR, wherever they are, their local offices on a regular basis. When we won against the pool club together, though there were other factors, of course, not just public outcry, but it was a major factor. We got on major network news. We got on all the big major newspapers. We were all over the place. Every local newspapers as well. Maybe there's a chance for us to stage regular, massive protests, like we're seeing going on in our country right now. Maybe not quite as big as that, but make some kind of public outcry. I know there was a protest in front of the casino a few weeks ago, a small protest. It was freezing temperatures, I understand. But there is going to warm up. We can get out there. Thank you. Thank you for having this meeting.
I just want to tell you that I'm disabled. My spine is 1/3 metal. Excuse me, I just want to say I'm disabled. My spine is 1/3 metal, so standing on is wounded, and there's nothing that I can treat, so instead of this, okay, I'm Joseph Lee, 1003rd Avenue, Asbury. A couple simple questions. Who put in, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Who put the orange neon sticker? Did they or did the city?
City construction official.
Okay.
The city construction official.
Okay, because one says it's fixable, the other one says it's not. Since they've been paying taxes, so far they're quote agreeing to the evaluation of the property. They may go back later and say, well, worth more. But you have a ballpark, and if they say, well, I want it worth 100% more, then you get to go back in time and say, well, then the taxes go 100% more. You've done zero to add to the property. You haven't, you need a permit to pay to put a roof on. If they've never gotten it, they can't show the records they did. They have not increased the value of the property. The land is moved, but the property is not actually moved now. So, you know, it's a nice little game of playing with taxes because they agree to it. The same thing with the scene planning and anything else that you do taxes on. They say they don't, because you don't pay taxes on something you don't own. It's just unheard of. They're a big company, they're not doing volunteer work. The $70 million grant will be applied for by Asbury, but it goes to them, or we just give it to the money, or it falls to Asbury? Because we can't be prepared for somebody else to pay. So it's their money, but we just get the full amount. All right, that was one. Okay. I don't know if anybody knows the history of that park. Well, we saw it, it's kind of the power plant, steam plant, was there for a reason. The architects put it there to block the view. People from Asbury Park, and the casino building, from being very black, colored, African American beach. It's there for a reason. And on the deck level, higher end people were allowed to eat up there. Okay, so it's an actual historical thing for the segregation of Asbury Park, which is started by a segregationist, okay? It is part of the history. And that divider, that little bit of Breezeway walkway, is part of it. On the second, the barn open on the right of the casino Breezeway we walk in, it's because it used to be for trade shows. And so it was designed not to be large, it was designed to be big for trade shows. So, you know, it was for retail, it was for exhibition. And they're, you know, politically that on purpose, but you can't mount the big vaulted arch, you just can't do it. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you very much. Hi, my name is David Schreier. I live on Deer Lake Drive in Asbury Park. My wife and I have lived here about 5 years. We live downtown, and when we first moved here, and I just like looking at all these green spaces all over town, and the waterfront development area. I was always wondering what's going on with all these green spaces. I also like looking at maps and studies, and I saw this Rutgers study. It was New Jersey Climate Change Research Center that had painted some damning pictures about pretty much everything east of Park and Hedge. And the timeline was 2030. I'm just reading some numbers. It rises, the sea level rises to 2.21 feet by the year 2050, and how do everyone want to build all these condos here? Well, maybe to sell them later, but the question sort of goes to motivation on the mass market or any of our sites. The question is really, oh, and by the way, thank you very much, everyone, putting this together. But my question is it possible that all developers don't want to do a darn thing with these, with the convention center and with the casino, etc., because it's going to be underwater? Why would they want to do a thing? But so that's just a general question. But the specific question is, the questions are, A, does this report ever come out in conversations? B, is there a competing report? The reason I ask these questions is it was just updated in 2025. I looked at the data in 2023 and the numbers did not get better. Thank you.
So your key question was whether there is no interest actually in repairing and restoring, just let them go.
No, the main question.
The main question is,
where are you guys aware of the report? And if, let's say, you don't take it seriously or manage to I don't care. I'm just looking for, is there a competing report that says, no. The water levels aren't going like that.
well, I'm very familiar with what they're talking about sea level rise. It's an interest of mine. I've written articles on that topic. There is debate about that Rutgers report, and there's challenge to it. I'm not saying that I agree with the debate, but to answer your question, there is a contrary opinion about that level of rapid rise over that period of time, and so that is a disputed point. Yes.
Okay, the following, if I may, is anyone aware of the competed report? In other words, some other university has done something to counteract that on paper.
I believe that I don't know about the university, but I do believe that there are private entities that have criticized that and have submitted reports and challenges. There's this a new real, and I can't remember what the acronym stands for, effort by DEP, soon to be adopted to adopt the strict requirements for building in areas that are not presently inundated, but there's a threat of inundation. So in that process, there's been a lot of challenge to the science in the comments that have been made by developers challenging those regulations. I think that they'll find literature out there.
My name is DJ Dunn. I live at 12 Prospect Avenue. And just for my edification, you're the law firm that represents the city, correct? Yes, yes. And you started doing that in 2018?
That's correct.
3 days. Very, very good presentation. Thank you for having this meeting. The presentation I thought was very good. You did a nice job of laying out the issues, but to kind of summarize, we had a lousy agreement that kind of superseded everything. And you did a nice job also laying out kind of the options that we have now. And again, they're kind of lousy. The best one is the one that has the big if it happens. So here's the thing that over the last several years as this has happened, for me, I've been down here for 5 years now. And I get very excited when I read this. I've read up about most of all of this. When the state grant of $20 million was announced, very exciting. And that still is exciting. It's kind of a bright spot in this presentation. However, what is the outcome of that? Waterproofing the building, does that mean we're going to have concerts next year in that building? What is the outcome? That's what I think most people are concerned about. God forbid that I say this out loud, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if that existing casino structure, not the carousel building, but the existing overpass was rebuilt as opposed to preserved. But that's the thing, we want an outcome, we want to plan with an outcome. Right now, a month ago, those stickers went off and a panic ensued. And it obviously affected Madison Market, and they are, when they came back and said, okay, we're gonna fix it. Which all that means is they're gonna put a wall up to make it stand up again. Nothing new. If they're going to waterproof the Paramount Theater and it stays as an empty, beautiful theater, nothing new there. Lipstick on the pig. We need plans, like somebody just earlier just said. We need actual plans with consequences. I know that's easier said than done, but that's what we need. I'm finished.
Hi, I'm Celia Morissette, and I've lived at 614 6th Avenue for 25 years. As a past vice president of the Historical Society, we have some members here tonight, the architectural legacy of Asbury Park has always been very important to me. Some of the newer members of our city might not realize that there were several early grassroots efforts to preserve our distinctive buildings, and some efforts were more successful than others. We were able to save the old Howard Johnson's building, now closed, but we lost the Charles building. 20 years later, we are still continuing to talk about saving our architectural heritage. I'm a member of our newly formed group called SOSAP, which stands for Save Our Structures. And we're concerned about the casino building, but we're also looking at additional structures that may be in peril. Some of you may or may not know that Dr. Angelo Chinisi was integral in getting the Paramount Theater and Convention Hall listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and this was in 1979. He worked on this in 1979. As many know, the Paramount was designed by Warren and Wetmore, we all know that, the same architects who designed Grand Central Terminal. The theater was completed in 1930, and in 4 short years, we'll be celebrating its 100th anniversary. And yet now, it's in disarray. We aren't able to use it. However, unknown to me until I did some deep research, is that the casino and the Carousel House are also listed on the National Register as part of the Convention Hall complex. These 2 buildings on the southern end of the boardwalk are considered a significant part of the larger Convention Hall and Paramount complex and should be protected, as is the Paramount Convention Hall. And this is actually listed on the National Register. We know that the current council was certainly not involved in 1979, and obviously. However, the city of Asbury Park had a 20-year historic preservation easement, and on the National Register website, it said that this was established in 1997. I've heard other numbers being bandied around. And this was with the New Jersey Historic Trust to ensure long-term preservation of the complex.